Give credit where credit is due, they say. But how do you do that? I said at some point in the semester, probably way back in the syllabus quiz video, that you can't do good writing unless you do good research. And it's not enough to do research. You've got to prove to your reader that the research is actually good. It has to be verifiable, which means they have to be able to find it. Let's see how well you got those details down. Let's see if people can find your stuff. Once again, to review, the average MLA citation in text is the author's last name and the page number in parentheses. It's generally that simple. If there's no author, you put the title in quotes. If there's no author and no page number, an abbreviated version of the title. Two authors, list them both, Walker and Sherry, so on and so forth. We went over the stuff in the last video, so let's go over the MLA citation quiz. The first half of it was, how would you cite this stuff in text? Correct it. Number 1, according to an article by Tilger, by 2015, about half of all college classes will be taught over the internet. I bet Tilger didn't think about a pandemic, huh? Well, the way you would cite this, it has an original distance learning 32. Well, frankly, it should just be 32, because we know it's from an article by Tilger. So when I'm going, if I want to trace the source, I will look for Tilger in the works cited list. All I need here is the page number. Number 2. Blogger Lou Herbert records that, until 1921, the Toledo Police Department purchased only used or surplus vehicles for its officers. The citation in the question is the web address, probably an abbreviated version. But you don't really need a citation, because we know the author's last name, it's Herbert. And since we know he's a blogger, we know that Lou Herbert's stuff is going to be online where there aren't page numbers. There's enough information in the sentence to where we don't need a citation. The sentence already pushes us there. If we can find the information in the works cited and trace it down in the real world, that's as much information as we need. You put a citation when it's not absolutely clear in the sentence who's saying it. Question 3. The federal EPA has warned that local treatment facilities may not be capable of removing VOCs from drinking water. That sounds fun. Well, the citation has Jones, page 17. All you need is Jones and 17 in the parentheses. You don't need the page because the only numbers that are going to be in a citation are going to be the page numbers. So that's not necessary. 4. By the late Middle Ages, trade guilds had become a political force to reckon with. Wojtek, 44. This is another one that's relatively straightforward. You just don't need to have the comma in there. Wojtek 44 is enough. Question 5. Jones quotes aquatics expert Bill Franken as saying the lake algae had reached lethal levels in January. Franken, PP 333-334. Well, all you really need are those page numbers. And you don't need the PP because, again, there's not going to be any other numbers in there. We already know that Jones is the person who wrote the source that's being quoted here. If it didn't have Jones in the sentence, you would put in Jones 333, 334. But since we already see the Jones in the sentence, Jones is the one doing the quoting, so Jones is where we got the stuff from. That's all we need, the page numbers. Part 2 is about developing the works cited entry. And y'all are really lucky because MLA, with its nice numbered list of items, is actually really simple now. It used to get weird, and it used to change from type of source to source. Now, it's straightforward. You fill in the boxes. An article called Unmade in America that ran on pages 33 to 41 of the June 2002 print issue of Harper's magazine. The writer is Barry Lynn. Well, the citation, Lynn Barry, because that's the writer. Unmade in America. Because Unmade in America is the title of the source we're looking at. Harper's is the container of that source. June 2002 is the publication date. And 33 to 41 is the specific location. Malcom Gladwell's book, The Outliers. It was published in 2011 by Back Bay Books. Don't forget, we read some Malcom Gladwell earlier. Remember the man with the big fro? The citation here, you start with author's last name, then first name, then period. Gladwell Malcom, period. The Outliers, period. Italicized or underlined because it is a big book. It's not in a container. Back Bay Books, the publisher, comma, and then the date, 2011, period. I should note that works cited entries would normally be in a hanging indent, and I tried to do it, but for whatever reason, PowerPoint won't let you do hanging indents. I don't get it. Anyway, the last three were a little bit more complex because we just gave you web links. When you follow this one, you get to this article. Can You Brew Beer in Space by Slate. All of the information is here. We just have to locate it, and we have to go in the order that we would in the citation. The first thing that would be in a citation would be name of the author. And it's right there at the bottom. If they don't list it, you move on to the next thing, which would be the name of the source. Can you brew beer in space? It's right here. Notice that it's different than on the address. I don't know why that is, but you go by what's the printed title on the source itself. Then, since it's something that's contained in something larger, we need to find out what the container is, and this happens to be on Slate. Next thing we need to know is when this was published, publishing information. We have the date here. And the location is the web address. And here we have the finished citation. Author's last name first, then first name, then middle initial if it's given in the actual article. Can you brew beer in space? The question mark means we don't have to put a period. There's already end of sentence punctuation in this. Slate, italicized or underlined since it is a container. Date, 29 November 2017. Everywhere else in the world starts with day, then month. Why the U.S. doesn't, I don't know. But we need to follow this convention so it's understandable for a larger possible audience. Then you put the citation. Note, you do not need the www. You also do not need the http:/::/ on there. We said it's a website. You can see it's a website. Website browsers can figure this stuff out. The next one was Black Swamp Org Transformation Along the Maumee. So if you go to that page, you get wah. Now, all we have to do is look for the elements. And you notice that there is not an author for this specific page, so we move on to the next stage, the source title, Transformation Along the Maumee. We then need to find the container title, and this is the Black Swamp Conservancy. Right there up in the logo. Sometimes you got to look for that. Next thing is the date, 2018. And it's in the copyright date. It's the closest thing we have, so that's all we'll be able to put on there. Then the location is easy enough because it's the web address. What we're left with is Transformation Along the Maumee, period. Black Swamp Conservancy, comma, 2018, comma, and then the web address with a period at the end. No author's name because we don't have one given. We don't have a month or day, so we just put the year. You put what you have. We have a YouTube link for the next one, and when you click on this one, you get sent to a YouTube page. YouTube will have the same level of information up, and you just have to follow the same plan. Name of the source. LeBron James, threat of police violence, a scary *** situation. Notice there's not a specific author given because this isn't really the thing that comes from the mind of one person. This is capturing a moment that actually exists out there in the world. So there's someone who films it, but they're not really the author per se. So we move to the next thing, the container, which happens to be YouTube as a whole. Then we look to see the publishing information. That means in this case, who uploaded this? And that would be ABC News. We need a date if there's publishing information, and luckily we have the date this thing was uploaded, September 27, 2016. Last thing we need, the location, the web address. This is what we end up with. LeBron James, threat of police violence, a scary ** situation, period. YouTube, uploaded by ABC News, 27 September 2016, and the web address. One last note on this one. The citation has ** because the web page had **. If it actually said a scary ass situation in the title, that would be what you'd write on the works cited entry. Unless you have an extreme religious objection to doing so. It happens. Then the ** would be a good way to do it. But don't feel obliged to sanitize stuff for the sensibilities of your audience. I want to know how I actually can locate this source, and the most accurate way to do that is to have the actual name. So those are the ins and outs of citation, and hopefully you learned a bit more by getting your fingers dirty and actually playing with some of this stuff. Now you've also caught me at a time where I'm lazy, so I'm not going to actually grade these things. You're just going to get the credit for doing it if you did it. Just make sure that you keep these things in mind when it comes to doing that final edit of your papers. See you next time.